If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
And the blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
America.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We are going to be chatting with Yousef as Awyan. Yousef Awyan from Egypt, from Cairo. Of course, we were cruising around Egypt with Yousef. He was our guide, and he's good buddies with Ben. Him and Ben, you know, they run a great show, and I would add the Brothers of the Serpent to that list now as well because they've got a bunch of great insights. So anyway, yeah, it's a great one. It's a good one. Yousef has lived in Cairo all his life. He's been bombing around the pyramids. He's like a second or third generation Egyptian tour guide, you know, and knowledge keeper. So it's a great chat. Of course, if you don't want to listen to our bullshit, you can skip ahead. There's a timestamp in the show notes. You just click on that. It'll take you right to the interview. You don't have to deal with our lazy ramblings. Of course, we got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham, back on the Sugar Dunlop. You still off?
What would make you say that?
I know you look a little disheveled today.
Oh, I don't know. Just, you know, I thought I shaved or showered. I mean, I should be looking okay. I mean,
it's just your hair, I think.
It must be the wind.
Grayer and grayer, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I noticed it the other day on the side. It's getting really gray. I was like, oh, man. Stress is getting to me.
It's coming in fast.
Yeah,
I'm noticing like a bunch of grays sprouting all over, but yeah, yours is going to be a full mop pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I'll always have a bit of brown, dark in there.
Yeah, I bet you lots of people say that.
Yeah,
a couple years before their hair turns gray.
Oh, this was a good chat though, man. Because we got some really personal questions to him from the chats. Because we do these things live. We do them, you know, every second Tuesday or Wednesday. We're kind of doing, or Tuesday and Thursday. We're usually going live with these things, and there was some good questions, like personal questions about what would he ask his father who's passed away about you know, Egypt, and what would he ask or tell his father. So really, some really good heartfelt answers here, and really good takes on like ancient mysteries and discoveries. And you know, do we need more, or do we have enough right now? I don't want to answer that.
Everybody got a kick out of the voices.
Yeah.
I have to shut it. How do I
just? There we go. Yeah. Like the biggest piece of feedback I got was everyone liked the voices.
Well, it was all just non-scripted, right? We didn't plan on doing all that. We just did it. So hopefully that came across like we didn't plan it. You know,
we couldn't plan stuff like that. If we could plan stuff like that, we'd be much more successful.
Yeah.
But here we are, begging for support. We don't have any new supporters to mention this week. So unless I've missed someone, but I just double checked. I don't see any new monthly subscribers and no one-time donations. So we're that puts us in reverse because we're never sort of standing still. It's forward and backward.
Yeah, exactly. But let's. But I did get some emails, so let's read some emails. Okay. That's always a good way to support the show too. Send us emails, send us feedback, share the show. You know,
tell that piece of shit Elon Musk to let us back on Twitter.
Like it, you know. Give it a good review. All those things.
Are you off of the Elon fan club again yet? Or are you still kind of hanging out in there? How's X these days?
Just lurking around, you know.
Hey, nah, we shouldn't talk about it. Actually,
yeah, let's not go into. Let's keep it light and.
What?
We got another
Oh
show.
yeah.
Keep it dark. Let's just keep it light and refreshing here.
I mean, the Canadian space is getting a little dramatic, isn't it?
It is getting weird in Canada. Yeah. I mean, most of the people I talk to are like, what is going on with the government? Like normal family members and stuff are like, things aren't going any better. Like it's like, and I read something the other day and I think I saved it for our other show. And it's just like, people are saying, this is like controlled demolition. Like this is like happening on purpose. Like the government's like doing this on purpose. Why? Like, and then people are like, oh, they want the conservatives to come in then to take us to the New World Order, right? Which is, I'm starting to believe that that's the case here. Like, we're going to push everyone in Canada conservative, and then we're going to take them that way.
Take them, yeah. Well,
into the new paradigm, into the New World Order.
It's not good. It's not good. Canada is in free fall. It seems like.
Yeah.
Life is quickly becoming unaffordable.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the support.
Yeah.
Yeah. America.ca/support. It's important, people, to support us so we can keep doing the show. If we, if fucking we're broke, we can't podcast. Podcasting ain't cheap.
No, it's not.
Not cheap. Not cheap, not easy. What was the stat? 4 million podcasts, but only 400,000 have updated in the last 90 days.
Yeah.
About 10%, people. 10%. I wonder how many have updated every week for the last 11 years, bitches. Not a lot. So, America.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation. I have solidified. I did buy my flights. So, UK, and it was a fucking, we should. So I already told you, but it's no fun. But I think it would be fun for the audience to guess how much of my plane ticket was fees.
Okay, so your plane ticket to the UK, right, for this event?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the flights themselves were because it's I'm going, and of course I'm bringing Shauna, so we're both going. So I had to buy 2 tickets, 2 flights. So each flight was $370 return.
$370?
$370. So times that by 2, $740 return for 2 people. That was the ticket price from the airline.
What? That's
Guess
like 80. That's like late 80s, early 90s pricing. We used to be able to go to the UK for $400 or $500.
Taxes and fees.
Taxes and fees.
For $1,875.
That's unbelievable.
Grand total to $2,600 and something.
And they actually break it down for you. Like, why don't they hide that?
Well, I think that they're sick because I've never noticed it before, and I feel like they're now presenting it in front of me because the flight it's up fucking 50% from when you and I went a year and a half ago on the way to Egypt. It's up 50%. And I think the airlines or whoever, the retailers, whoever you're buying your ticket through, are sick of getting bitched at. So they're just like, here's the taxes and fees. This is
so
what
government is. What government is it? Like, is it the UK? Is this like specifically Canadian? The Canadian and the landing place, so Canadian and the UK,
dude, I told you I flew to Kamloops the other day. It's an hour and 5 minutes from work. And it was $912.
Oh, it's unbelievable. So, what are the taxes and fees in this trip to the UK then? Like, what are they?
They don't tell you. It doesn't say. So, I'm assuming there's some airport improvement fees on either side of that. There's some carbon tax here. There's some carbon tax there, and
some goods and services tax. Some
a bunch of fees. Yeah, this fee, that fee. How about another fee?
So let me just get this again. 1,800 in fees and 372 for a ticket.
1,875.
Oh my
so
God.
If we were going for one ticket, it would be $932. Sorry, $937.50 in fees and $370 in actual ticket price.
I think this is a sign of the descent. This is really like a good example of what's happening. It's just perfect. The administrative complex has taken over.
Yeah. I mean, there's fucking at least $1,200 in bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's not sustainable. How is that ever sustainable? Okay. Let's move on before we get
paying a
too.
bunch of salaries. I mean, it's not a Boeing. So interesting that I don't think I've been on a Boeing since the trouble. I've been checking. You know, they always have that little card in front that says because of course it's like all of a sudden I'm flying all over the place. I got a bunch of travel. Like just to Texas, you're on 6 planes. You know, it's like so every time I'm just checking the card, but no Boeings yet. The last one I was on prop planes. So it's a little sketchy.
Well, I think if you're flying in Canada, you got to be on Boeings because WestJet. I mean, WestJet's mainly got 737s, I think, but I don't think those Boeings are the problem. I think it's the newer stuff, right? Which WestJet has new Boeings too, probably. But
I was on an Airbus with WestJet.
oh, were you? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Because remember, when they started out, their whole premise was standardize the whole airline to 737 Boeings. That was their like one of their keys to success. I mean, imagine how much less maintenance, how much less parts, how much less inventory, how much less everything, the variety, all those expenses that you have to go through with having a variety of products, goes down when you've just got one product to deal with.
I was on the Disney Airbus. That's all painted up with the Disney characters.
Nice.
I was looking out the window waiting there's a taxi, and there's a bunch of people like taking turns getting their picture taken in front of the plane.
Nice.
I was like, oh boy, I'm in the gay plane. So, but it's like so, and then I was on the Bombardiers, right? Those are made in Quebec.
Bombardier. Yeah.
Bombardier. So I was on those prop planes are Bombardiers. So Bombardiers. We used to call the snow machines Bombardiers, but Bombardiers too. They make like the Tundras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Shitty snow machines.
Really? I thought they had good snow machines.
Nah, I mean, did they become Skidoo? Is Skidoo Bombardier?
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, the big three, at least when I was still snow machine.
Can I guess?
Okay, yeah, guess.
Skidoo, Bombardier, and Yamaha.
You're a dork.
No,
what was it?
Polaris.
Oh,
Arctic Cat.
Right.
Skidoo.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Did you get one right? I think you got one.
The Skidoo, yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh boy, look at you go. You're a real outdoorsman. So what do you got? What's new? What do you got for?
I got a great couple emails here to read.
About what?
Just you don't want to do any jingles or anything like that? Just break right into the email.
No, you could just break into the email.
Okay, this is from Hunter. This is about our last week's episode with Alex Tsakiris.
Hunter
Hi,
B.
Graham. What?
Hunter B.
Yep. Hunter S. Just listen to
Hunter S. Thompson.
Just listen to Alex Tsakiris app. Here's a little boots on the ground concerning the hordes of $15 an hour workers behind the scenes making Chat GPT work. So you ready for this? Do you remember that big controversy during the app?
I have heard this before.
In 2009, 2010, I worked for the Linguistic Data Consortium, working on language models. I would do recorded interviews, human annotated video, and human correction of machine translation. It was low-wage work, often done by musicians and artists because it could be done part-time, and much of it done remotely on your own schedule. Most of the research was funded by DARPA. One job was to make corrections to machine-translated language, so Mandarin to English or Arabic to English. I would take a human translation of a text or video, and I would have to correct the machine-translated text in as few edits as possible so that the two texts had the same meaning. This was in order to improve technologies that automatically translate one language to another, presumably to make it easier to automatically parse lots of Chinese and Arabic phone calls, messages, and emails for any info of import to the Department of Defense. Another job was to watch hours and hours of videos on YouTube on a specific topic, say birthday parties, and annotate the video with everything you saw. The number of people, their approximate age, cakes, candles, hats, colors, indoors, outdoors, etc. I never knew exactly what the ultimate purpose of this job was, other than improving the technology's ability to recognize specific things in video content. I have a feeling, having worked in the data collection and annotation side of the training language models, that ChatGPT has to have hordes, has to have hordes of low-wage workers doing the sort of verification work that you do when you have to do a CAPTCHA and pick all of the motorcycles or fire hydrants. I don't think there's a team of people literally answering someone's questions. It is more like there is a massive team analyzing a portion of the answers that ChatGPT is providing and verifying that it is giving correct info or correcting incorrect info in as few edits as possible. You can somewhat easily set up your own open source Markov chain text generator and train it on text that you specifically choose and run it on your own hardware. No minimum wage workers needed. You could train it on PDFs of all the books you've narrated or anything from Project Gutenberg. And he sends a link to Markov Python. The chatbots like ChatGPT are essentially a more sophisticated version of that with a more sophisticated algo and a much bigger data set. Love the show, especially Outlawed and the Outlawed Roundup, and have been an Outlawed Plus member for a few years. Get Joel Salatin on sometime if you can. Best Hunter.
Didn't we have Joel on?
We did, yeah, back on the original show quite a few years ago now.
This is the original show.
On this show, yeah. So what do you think of that analysis in general?
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much more sense to me, right? It's like there's people there that are correcting stuff, but they're not sitting there in a big farm answering every query. Like, it would be impossible. I mean, I get answers back from ChatGPT so fast that it would be impossible for a human to be doing that. I can't believe these things like just get out of. I mean, this is just a great example of how the conspiracies get out of control now, right?
Oh yeah, the conspiracy world is out of control. It's unhinged. Unhinged. It's it's unhinged. I don't know how to other way to put it. Not all of it, but large portions of it are unhinged in several different directions.
Did you watch that JRE with Hancock and Dribble or whatever his name was? Dibble?
Yeah.
Well, so I went to ask you about that. I mean, I haven't asked you in person yet, but what did you kind of said that it was a bit frustrating. No, I didn't watch it yet, but what was it about the white supremacy or something in Atlantis or?
Oh yeah.
Was that what Dibble, was it a debate between Hancock and Dibble or how was?
Yeah, it's really just kind of pathetic,
Really?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot covered in the debate. I didn't mind little Flint Dibble. I mean, he's a little misguided. But he's a little misguided, but he seems like a nice enough guy.
How is he
my dad? I think with the racist shit, obviously. I mean, because Graham has never said that the old civilization was white people,
right?
So I don't know. Like it was long. It was really. I did learn some interesting things about archaeology. Yeah. I would like to go over because I think Hancock dropped the fucking ball on the Egypt part of it. I would say that Ben or the bros could have done a better job of being like, well, how do you explain this, man, with rocks? This, but because I think I would say they did this, that, or the other. I mean. You know what happened is right at the beginning they had technical difficulties. So like that's just too much for Hancock. It's too much. That for some reason technical difficulties in general really seem to melt that guy's brain. So I can and now he's like on Joe Rogan with this thing. So because they like had to pause the podcast while they figured it out. And this is right at the beginning before Graham tries to do his presentation. And so they had to pause the podcast because Graham's like, you could just hear it in his voice that he's starting to get a little frustrated because his HDMI is not working. But I know Graham. No, I don't know him, but I've been around a couple of times where technical difficulties have really, ruined that guy's day and, everybody around him. But so I could just picture in like him just quietly seething now while he's trying to do a presentation, but he has had technical difficulties already, so he's already.
And Dibble was sort of arguing that like some of Hancock's stuff was based on racism or something like that.
Well, that was like, so here's the thing. I don't even know if Dibble would have brought that up. Apparently there was some statement made. I don't know enough of the backstory, but I think it all goes back to some letter about ancient apocalypse. But I don't even know that any of that would have come up if it weren't. I mean, it was kind of funny that it was, because then Joe's like, well, why'd you say that? And he's like, well, I didn't really. And he's like, well, he said something like that. Because Joe, didn't really let him get away with it. And you could tell he was kind of cornered. And then his partner had said some really weird shit. So anyway, like I say, I didn't mind Flint. I'll probably get some hate mail for that. But honestly, I think he did a much better job. I wouldn't say he won the debate, because I have been to Egypt and stuff, and I've seen stuff that I'm like, now there's no way this was. You can clearly see there was some people better at some shit way before. And I mean, Hancock is even saying that the pyramids were built at the traditional time. I don't know if he was just saying that for the sake of the argument and he just wanted to make it about the Sphinx. But I mean, I think the fact that those pyramids were made 4,500 years ago is fucking bananas, especially when you look at the stone scraping stuff that's been going on. And you go in those things and it hasn't just been slapped up. It's like harmonically perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I digress. So here the big problem is that Graham's whole fucking thing was about like the stuff that's been said about him, online. So I get it. I mean, I do get called a misogynist all the time. And
yeah, but it's different when it's the mainstream media slagging you. Like we haven't reached that level where mainstream people give a shit about us. But I mean, I think that's what annoys Hancock, is when he's being called, like, when these are headlines that go around the world calling him a white supremacist. That would be a bit different.
Who cares, man? You can't care about kind of shit. You just can't. Yeah. You can't. I mean, bring it on, fucking faggots.
Bring it on, faggots.
Anyway,
maybe this one's better for the.
Anyway, so like Hancock had a whole presentation on all the nasty stuff that mainstream archaeology has said about him and said about other people and this. So I really felt like he went down the road of trying to make it about archaeology, where it's like, well, you can't expect this dude I do expect him to answer for the stuff he specifically said. But other than that, you can't expect him to answer for archaeology or these other people that have been, blackballed because this and that. I would have liked to just seen it about the facts, spend more time going through facts, where it's like, here's this, boom, what do you think? Here's this, boom, what do you think? I mean, here's the thing. Flint has some pretty interesting evidence for agriculture. I don't know if I agree with this stuff about metallurgy and stuff like that being in the atmosphere, that they'd find it in the ice cores. I don't know that you would. I think that stuff, having that stuff settle, might be a bit much to ask that stuff to be settling, especially if it's on a small scale. But I don't know enough about that to really comment. But he does have some interesting stuff on just like seed evolution. That, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but the way he comes across is like, that makes sense. That makes sense that they can track sort of agriculture that way. But that being said, if you had, it looks like, somewhere between 3,000 and 6,000 years in between this thing or interruption, it would go back to wild and you wouldn't be able to tell anyway. If that makes sense. So kind of was like, if it was only a couple hundred years, or if like a civilization just got trashed and then people started up again right away, it should have still been those seeds that were clearly cultivated. There's some sort of a difference between wild seeds and cultivated seeds, which makes sense, right? The way we're growing bananas and we're growing corn and we're growing all this stuff, potatoes, even, that if you would have looked at the potatoes they were growing fucking 5,000 years ago, you would have been like, probably take a lot of potatoes. There's no French fries because your potatoes are probably all like radish. You know what I mean? And they talk about bananas being way smaller. And he actually had a little piece of corn, a little paleo piece of corn that was about the size of your thumb. So like, okay, well, that kind of stuff makes sense to me. But then there's a point that, well, if you had 1,000 years in either direction, you'll get sort of lost to time.
That's what I was going to say. I think it was a longer comeback than that. But
And then Graham kept going back to Clovis first, but he's like, well, I can't control what the media writes, but from archaeologist standpoint, we've been off of Clovis first for a long time. He's like, that's not what I learned. I didn't learn Clovis first.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the other email. So this is about our outlawed episode. This is from David. I've just listened to most of the Shontario interview. As is often the case with your guests, it got me thinking. I'm so glad I asked someone to install Linux and Ubuntu on this laptop a couple years ago. As for Gmail, which I still use, unfortunately, I'll tell you a story about what happened a couple of years ago when a certain set of procedures was being mandated. When I was allowed to leave my house, I went into the center of Liverpool to do a few things and came across someone called Piers Corbyn, who was making a speech criticizing what was going on while handing out leaflets to people. He's the brother of the guy who used to lead the Labour Party here, but even though you might consider Piers a lefty, I'm sure you'd agree with much of what he has to say. I picked up some extra leaflets that Piers had given out because I wanted my friend to see them, and I emailed my friend to tell him before I put the leaflets in the post together with another document, which was about a different subject. The envelope was delivered to my friend, but it had been opened and Corbyn's leaflets had been removed. The leaflet about a completely different subject was still in the envelope. As for your need of a king in Canada, tell Darren you already have one. He's called Charles Philip Arthur George Saxe Kuberg Gothe, to give him his correct names, but you might know him as Charles III. He ended up as our king because of something called the Glorious Revolution in 1688.
Now that shit don't count though, because he's not a king. I mean, a motherfucker that can just be like, nah, man, I'm changing this today, effective immediately.
I know, but just which was actually a coup d'etat. So he's talking about the Glorious Revolution in 1688, which was actually a coup d'etat. A group of wealthy bankers and merchants in London didn't like the existing king. So here you go, Darren. This is what happens. Wealthy bankers and merchants in London didn't like the existing king, who was a Stuart. So they got rid of him in order to establish a fiat currency system and to set up the Bank of England. Charles III is our monarch because of that coup. It's also the reason why there are so many people of Scots descent in Canada, because the Scottish Highland clans had supported the Stuart kings and tried to restore them to the throne. Sadly, they lost, which allowed the merchant bankers to clear the clans from their ancestral lands in Scotland. Anyway, the rest is history, as they say. And then he kind of mentioned he was half thinking of arranging a THC meetup in Liverpool, like a Grimerica / THC meetup in Liverpool. And maybe when Darren was over there, but I don't think there's time to set that up or anything. I don't think anything's happened with that. But
I'll be there from the 11th to the 17th.
Of June, right?
Yeah, I think I leave on the 18th, actually, in the morning.
So thanks, David. Good, nice email, as usual. Interesting that, our current king was from a coup d'etat, bankers and merchants.
You can tell. You can kind of tell.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of tell. All right, you got another email?
Oh, that's it.
That's it? Huh. Well, should we just get out of here then? Do you have a...
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I got another thing to do right now, so...
You got another thing to do other than your job?
Yeah, well, it is my job. I'm just on another show.
Promoting on another show. What show you on?
Limina's the Human Responsibilities Tribunal, talking about addiction.
And then Union of the Unwanted.
Union of the Unwanted in an hour and 15 minutes. So.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
There you go. There you have it, guys. GoAmerica.ca/support. Thanks for the emails too. That helps, but support helps more. Please support the show. We need support now more than ever. And like you say, it's getting tough out there in Canada. So send us those American dollars. They really do translate nicely into dollarettes. All right. Let's have the bio.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have an actual bio for Yousef, but this is the Khemit School of Ancient Mysticism, an open forum with free membership for all who wish to learn, teach, research, and share about everything relating to Khemit, Egypt. We offer a gathering place for those who wish to promote transformation, positive self-transformation, contribute to raising levels of awareness and the integrity of our collective consciousness. Combining the wisdom of ancient Khemit and the powerful energies of the sacred land with our collective knowledge, abilities, and talents, the Khemit school of ancient mysticism offers a space to experience profound life-altering shifts. Our vision, personal and global transformation achieved peacefully in a safe and open environment wherein everyone who participates can combine their collective energies, research, ideas, and wisdom for the betterment of all. And I guess that, the main thing here that I love what he's saying here, and here's the summary, why chematology? Because Egyptology doesn't cover everything or offer valid explanations or all that we see and experience at the sites in Egypt. So then they've got Abdel Hakim Awyan, which maybe that's his dad. Did you know if his dad died in 2008?
I do not know that.
World-renowned indigenous Egyptian keeper of the keys developed the discipline of chematology, which offers an alternative perspective of Egypt's heritage. So much new evidence is being uncovered throughout Egypt that warrants our collective and continued research of the rich legacy of knowledge and wisdom left behind by this highly advanced civilization. So that's a pretty good summary.
That's not bad. It's pretty good. I like it. Yeah, this is a good one, guys. Enjoy the chat. This is a real good one. So support the show, but more importantly, enjoy the chat. Oh, we also have a trip with Randall Carlson. You want to talk about a great trip in Egypt? We also have a few spots left for a great trip with Randall Carlson and Brad, and I'll be there. And we're going to have a time down in the Scablands of Washington. A 5-star all-inclusive trip. So if you guys want to check that out, head over to contact@thecabin.com and click right on that Scablands with Randall Carlson button, and it'll take you right over there. You can get a ticket, and you can come have a hell of an adventure with us 2 weeks from today down in the Scablands of Washington. Other than that, guys, enjoy the chat. Yousef Awyan.
All right, we got Yousef with us all the way from Egypt. Welcome to Grimerica, Yousef. How you doing?
Hey, hello. I'm happy to be here with you.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, same here.
So what's new? What's new in Egypt? Are you close to the Giza Plateau right now? Still?
Yeah, of course. That's where I was born. My family house. I grew up in this area, and it's just hard to live elsewhere after you lived all your life in an area that is flooded with people from all over the world. So, yeah.
How much bigger has it gotten?
It's huge. The area is.
Yeah, I was super surprised by how big Cairo was when I got there. Like outside of the pyramids, just like getting off the airplane and getting to the hotel, which was like on the opposite side of Cairo. I could not believe how big it is. How much has that? Like, we don't have anything in Canada that is close to that. Our closest city is maybe 5 million people or so. And it's just, how big, how much has that grown since you were a young boy? It must have like tripled in size.
The population grew at least few millions in the last decade or so. And we have buildings in Cairo from more than 100 years ago. We have French style building and British. Plus, of course, the historical ones from the Coptic and the Islamic Cairo. They are over 1,000 years old. Churches and mosques and houses also all built from stone. And of course, the ancient Egyptian layer, which is thousands of years old. So Cairo, of course, the population is about 30 million people nowadays. It's a huge city. Giza is part of Cairo from a side, and the west side. And My village in Giza is right on the edge of the desert, the western desert, and begins with the Giza Plateau. So you came to my house, and you know I live like 1 minute walking distance from the Giza Plateau.
Was it
Yeah.
that built up when you were younger, or was it kind of wide open?
It was open.
Yeah.
It was open, and there were no walls, so we could just walk there if we want to, and it was beautiful. Still beautiful, of course, attracting more people and visitors.
It's got to be kind of like a weird double-edged thing because it's blowing up and it's got all these extra people there, but at the same time, it's sort of giving you this ability to run a business where you kind of get to do that sort of stuff for a living.
Yeah, we have the family shop, the Khemit shop for the family in the family house, and yeah. But back in the days, there used to be more uh, spots in the Giza Plateau that is okay for the public to go and visit. The more restrictions is put by the academics, of course, to save the areas from anybody who can access with ignorance. They can damage things or stuff like that. Because they are still the old kingdom tombs with carvings on the walls and things like that. Many of them has no carvings or anything, but some of them do have carvings on the walls from the old kingdom. About 2500 BC, according to the Ministry of Timelines. So it's an amazing area. There used to be some location, a reused one of the old kingdom tombs, and the people from the village believed it had healing powers. Also, there used to be a well near from the ancient ones and access to water, and people used to go there for healing. It was very popular. People used to come from other cities just to be able to visit this room and drink from the well. But it was shut by the officials, of course, so not long a time ago, about 50 years ago or something.
Has
Have you
the
noticed-
did the museum open up yet?
The Grand Museum,
Yeah.
yeah, it did open a soft opening, as they call it. But I went there once, and the majority of what's on display is what used to be outside in the garden of the Cairo Museum. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of artifacts that were moved from Cairo Museum and other locations to this museum, and we are waiting for it to see it in display. Some of them are really interesting, like stone jars and vessels. They took tens of them from the Cairo Museum to be displayed. But still, I still personally prefer the Cairo Museum. It's still stronger in display and the wealth of artifacts that the Cairo Museum houses.
That's the one we went to, right?
Yeah, this is the one we went to, and we still take the guests to, and unless they have a desire to go visit the Grand Museum.
I was super hungover that day. That was the only day. Super hungover. They convinced me to party the night before. I was going to stay on the bus, and I was like, "You can't stay on the bus, man. That's not an option." So we do have the Land of Chem in the chats. He says hi. I think you must see him around out there on the plateau from time to time.
Who?
What's his name now? Jeffrey Drum.
The land.
Jeffrey Drum. Yeah, he lives here. Yeah.
Yeah, he says kisses from Mahdi.
Yeah, he lives in Maadi. Maadi is a part of Cairo that most people, there is like a foreign community lives there. Many Americans and Europeans are living there. So those who decide to live here mostly live there. They don't feel that they are far away from home, the same shops, the same society, things like that.
A little more English friendly too, probably.
Jeffrey been doing a lot of research also. And I wish him really the best.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I keep seeing him on social media. I'm like, that's a pretty long trip. It seems like he's living there now. So That's good.
Yeah, he started with a couple of trips. I had the honor to guide him around, and now he's researching on his own with his, I believe, with his lady, and they've been doing great things. I think he's hosting also tours. Yes, I'm sure he's
Yeah.
hosting tours as well.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
became a path opener. That's what we like to call it, a path opener
A
for
what?
others to a path opener
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
others to walk the path.
Yeah,
And
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Ancient Odysseys is in the chat too. I think she's
yes,
with
this is
Jeffrey
the
there.
one run by his lady.
Yeah. So I mean, I was gonna say that you've been responsible for, I mean, the paradigm is shifting. It's changing. And I think you've played a pretty big part of that. I mean, you're open to a lot of different theories, like you've helped Land of Chem get through. Yeah, Yousef was my main inspiration and a huge influence on his life, he says. And then now
Thank you,
he's a
brother.
path opener himself. And the same like Ben from Uncharted X and the Brothers of
Yeah.
the Serpent. I mean, you're entertaining different
Now us
theories
even.
and things.
Now us even. I mean, everything I know about Egypt is kind of from that tour. Kind of everything we had learned in our interviews and watching. I mean, Graham had been there before, so it might be different for him, but it was all kind of just washed away by being able to go there for 3 weeks and go over that with you. So it's kind of like that for us, I would say, as well.
Truly, and we like to share the stories from the academics, like the academic information, plus, of course, the alternative, if we can call it that, or the other researches that is a point of interest or mysteries that we cannot be satisfied with the answers and looking for, like trying to get to the bottom of it. And that's why I also respect the field of chemistry, because Jeffrey runs the Land of Chem, and it's a very important piece of the puzzle, the chemistry. And then he did his research with ACIDA project, which I also helped them back in the days. ACIDA project is a Russian group, and they've been working here in Egypt for a very long time. And they also, yeah, they were exploring and they needed my help, explanations, things in Abu Sir and in the Red Pyramid and the Pink Pyramid in Dashur, and of course the Giza Plateau as well. So I love doing that because I also learn more how, like, a lot of the things I became aware of, I understood about it from guests or friends that we toured together, and we shared the information, and that was the basic idea of creating the Khemit school of ancient mysticism. Is a school that we are all the teachers and we are all the students. We are sharing with each other in order to know more and raise the awareness about the ancient civilization, which reflects, of course, on our modern culture and civilization as well.
Yeah, yeah. When was that? When did you create the Kemet school?
The Kemet school, actually, chematology was created, not created, but like a label that is used by my father, God bless his soul, before I start working when he was still alive. Because he was an official tour guide and archaeologist as well, and he had his own insights about a lot of things, like the challenges of implementation and the ideas of anti-gravity fields and stuff like that. These are the kind of stuff I grew up listening to and seeing my father wondering about the challenges of implementation that includes, like, there are some things that we can understand how they were created, just like when we go to the quarry in Aswan. There are extracting methods that we look at and we immediately recognize how the ancients extracted the granite stone with this method. But there are other tool marks, for example, like the scoop marks. And we hear that the academics say it was created by crushing the stone with the pounders of dolerite. And it didn't make any sense to academics, like engineers. Engineers that are responsible, or like their profession is to work with stone cutting and metal cuttings and things like that. And They didn't see that this method or these tools could leave these patterns that we see in the stone. Makes perfect sense. So this is one simple example of how we can, why we would also look for alternative answers. What
Yeah,
else
yeah.
could we put on the table? Doesn't mean we are right, but we are like this one topic about the extracting with crushing. It has no real strength or value when it comes to scientifically studying this method.
Has that
So
gotten worse or better, do you think, since your father's time? Because it seems like in a lot of ways it could have got worse, but in another way, there's this weird level of control of narratives and access has crept in over the last 50 years as well. So I could see it maybe going in the other direction too.
it's actually going in different directions. Some of them are good, like the academics now are like adapting to the idea of archaeoastronomy. That at once it was also like searching for the lost technology, something that they will deny all the way. Like these are you're just making up things. But now nobody can deny the alignment of stars and the constellations with the temples and pyramids. Still, it's in the early beginning, but they are now becoming more and more aware of it. And also the ancient advanced lost technology that we have it. And it's been documented more than 100 years ago, almost 150 years ago. It was documented officially. And a debate was still happening from that time until today. Some people want to say that these cuts and these tool marks were created with the primitive tools. Some saying no. And we have one thing here, we have one thing there. And still, it's not for sure. Um I mean, for the academics, they are not 100% positive of that because if this topic is going to be admitted by the academics, there is no way that around rewriting history then, because the tool marks exist on artifacts that is dated back to the Neolithic era, or at least Chalcolithic era, and that's where the burials that they found these artifacts in. So anyway, chematology was created to have the space to discuss these kind of things, like sound, vibration, things like that. I remember from the 80s, my father had these pictures of him uh, hitting the granite, part of the obelisk that was laying down in Karnak temple and allowing the people to hear the vibration on the granite stone and things like that. Talking about, as I said, the possibility of using magnetic and sound levitation that helped them moving the hundreds of tons monolith. On the other hand, of course, we have. Sorry. I was saying, on the other hand, we have all the respect. I personally respect the academic information, and also I never underestimate the capability of the dynastic Egyptians because I've seen what they were capable of, and the achievements of the dynastic Egyptians is mind-boggling as well. But
Right.
at least we know the methods that they used, and they left clear documentation of how they created things, from stone masonry to sculpting, casting metals, art, everything, cultivation, fishing. They left everything on the scenes. They left back all the kingdom tombs, the ones we call the daily life scenes. So we have this. There is no doubt about it. But we have the older era, the archaic age, and the pre-dynastic. This is the main focus and interest for us researching for the different industries, has been from the uncharted X, like they call it, the tale of two industries.
We have a couple great questions in the chats. We don't always get those, but after all you've learned, Yousef, this is from Green Tea. If you could speak to your father again, what questions would you ask him?
Oh, that's one question, man.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
If I could speak with my father, I was not going to ask him. I was just going to tell him, now I see.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Now I see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, another one from Green Tea is like, what is your biggest question, or what would you like to have access to see excavated?
More than what is revealed is enough to start the next phase, in my opinion. And the next phase is experimentations for the activation of the pyramids. So that's what we already have, the pyramids, and we have the interior designs. We have many pyramids that we can see and complete the designs from here and there. I think we have enough. We just need the scientists from different fields to get together and starting to build a model with what we know. And
that's a great answer. That's a great answer too. So what do you mean by activation? I mean, that's a pretty interesting word in that context. You know, when you say activating a pyramid.
Coded even.
The activation simply means the real function of it. And it's nobody can deny that the pyramid is still active, just from the power of design, the geometrical design, and the alignment, and the earth, the mound, and so there are more than that. There is more than that. So the idea is to build, like people built models, smaller models for pyramids while ago, long time ago, many years ago. And they started to find the pyramid power, the simple things that they just found out of the shape of the pyramid with the same angles and the alignment to the cardinal directions or to the magnetic north specifically. And they created an activation. It's a silent one. And it helped things to maintain the fresh, like any organic. It actually affected organic and the non-organic materials. Affected metals, and it affected water and beef, and so these are really old, perhaps before we were all born, experiments. But for some reason, nobody took this any further, at least publicly. And if somebody did, they did it individually. But we need this, like the reason we are working to trying to prove the existence of an advanced knowledge in the ancient past is to learn from it. So by creating a model of the pyramid with the studies of physicists, and there are other fields of science like archaeoacoustic physics, of course, and chemistry as well, as we were talking. And somehow the ancients had all these different types of science into oneness. It was one knowledge that worked together perfectly, just like nature. So nature divine, something connected spirituality with dynamics. And my father, I was going to say that yes, you were right, because it shows that what he said briefly, like the pyramids were created for us to live healthier, is something that I experienced myself, and we experience when we go and do the privates inside the pyramids. So no one, as I said, can deny that the pyramid um, has power that affects our bodies and our intellectual abilities and our spirituality as well. So we gain spiritual power and intellectual abilities just from visiting the pyramid.
Can you go into more detail about your experience in specifically in there?
Yeah, I can tell you briefly. I realized, and this was a while ago, that every time I return back, something in me recognizes what's happening, and it's not logic, or I didn't figure it out logically, but I just felt it, and it's like recharging simply from this energy. There is energy that feeds us when we are visiting inside or around the pyramids. And when I stay away from it, this charge fades away. It doesn't last forever. Then when I return back, my body recognizes it again and welcomes it and
That's
feeds
super
from it.
interesting because a lot of people wouldn't get to, like, when we go there, it's once, or at best, even with Ben and the bros, it's once a year, and you got all these people with you, so you've got this buzz going. So I probably wouldn't even notice that because I'm running on such a buzz already from being in Egypt and being in the pyramid. I really feel like that's the kind of takeaway that only someone who's gone there, dozens and dozens and dozens of time in a work context. So, you're not always stoked to be there. I'm sure it's always exciting, but sometimes it's got to be like, man, baby, I got to go do the pyramid thing tonight. I know I got this and that, but to a certain extent, work creeps in. I know how it goes. We're living the dream, but it's still work some days. So I really feel like that's sort of the insight that only someone that's going there in that capacity would pick up on.
Yeah, truly. And it's something that I didn't try to figure it out, as I said, logically or anything. I just lived with it. I understood it by my heart, and I'm comfortable with it. And I saw that it also worked on my father before me. And a lot of the things that is awakening in my brain, I remember my father, and he was there, not just my father, also others who are involved with the field of archaeology or pyramids, and they go there. You can find the transformation that is happening to them. Sometimes it's happening to keepers and guards at the site, and they're turning spiritual somehow.
Wow.
Yeah, they understand energy. They're more clear. They're more purified. My father himself, I believe, the sites changed him from a tour guide to a spiritual leader. That's who he was. And even the system knew him for that. And he used to have struggles because he doesn't just go there and talk about the challenges of implementation. He goes there to allow the people to feel the energy of the site with that technical things as well, like techno spiritual, we can call it that. And this is the style of the tour we like to have. But there are limits to this, of course, because some people can take advantage of understanding that, and some people they want to do a priest work. You want to create initiations, and you want to do this, and you want to make rituals and things like that. Of course, the government doesn't allow things like that. But I think feeling or toning are not going to cause any harm to the monument. And for all of us who we love these and admire and respect the ancient monuments, we all like to respect it. And, trying not to cause, of course, anything that will do any damage for it on the short or the long term.
Do you think rituals or initiations should be allowed, or would they cause damage? Or does it depend on the intention or the type of ritual or initiation? Like, is that something that should be allowed, do you think?
With like some people just like to sit and energize. I don't see anything wrong with that. If somebody want to walk with bare feet, that's all right. But like I remember someone came with a rubber hammer and he said, I want to like hit the boxes and there's no way I'm going to help you do that. You know, it still looks like a big hammer and you want to go ahead, hit the granite boxes in the pyramid and in the serapeum. No, I cannot allow this even. Or taking samples or things like that, unless it's with, of course, the knowledge or the authorities allowing it for those who want to do these studies for the public and things like that. But the initiation is created just by being there, in my opinion. And then the other way of convincing you that I am the one who did this for you, that is more like the priest trying to manipulate the masses thing. So the power is at the site. It's at the location. And those who built the structure, they were building it to harness from the natural force that is in this location. So, yeah.
Jeffrey Drum, Land of Chem, also asks if you've seen any, have the pyramids, do you know of the pyramids ever getting hit by lightning?
I have seen like lightning around the pyramid, but I don't think it hit the pyramid itself. And there are the studies of the piezoelectric theories about the weight and everything. It's one of the good theories that is worth really working on it and having further studies to understand the connection between the grids and the peak of the mountain, and then the pyramid is built on top of that. It is very similar. And it's worth also looking into what we call mythology and understand it different way, that it is ancient knowledge that was passed down to us, but it was passed down to people who already lost this knowledge, or through people that lost the knowledge. So it needed to exist in symbolism. And this symbolism was explained differently throughout the ages. And most of it nowadays is believed to be mythology, something that has nothing to do with logic or science or anything at all. But I doubt that, because a lot of things that the ancient Egyptians passed to us resonate as science. And it has alchemy, and it has astronomy, and it has biogeometry, and other fields of science. That's why I said the research requires group of each field of science, of many fields of science, getting together. From each field, you need a group of scientists, not one of each field. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to
Yeah.
ask. So, if that's the way to go, I mean, I love your answer about like enough exploration has been done. Now we need to research and experiment to activate type thing, right? So,
Yeah.
what is there any progress or is there any initiatives to get the government to help you guys do that kind of thing? Like, because I know that when we went there, you're not supposed to be doing sort of science in there, right? There's the whole thing. You're not supposed to be
Yes,
doing
nobody's
science.
able.
When will that be allowed?
That's exactly it. It will be allowed when we convince the academic. It will be allowed if we can convince the academic that the pyramid is more than just a tomb.
That's the key right there.
It
That's the
sounds
key.
easy, but it's not. Like there is a million evidence that it's not a tomb. There is less evidence that shows that it's a tomb, but it's not that easy because history is written and it is really hard to change. But science can, knowledge can, proving that we look at the challenges of implementation and showing the difficulties because it reflects on those who built it.
What's your favorite site? I mean, you get to go through them all. Is it the Great Pyramid, or is there an underlying one, or is there some place maybe that you don't get to take the tours? What's your favorite place to go in Egypt?
My favorite places, it's not one place, but like my main favorite, of course, the Giza Plateau is a major site. But I still also love Abu Sir. Abu Sir is amazing. And the Temple of the Sun. And Karnak Temple in Luxor. These three are the most powerful and having layers upon layers of history. And Abu Sir specifically has a lot of the power tool marking from tubular drills and saw cutting marks, and also the Temple of the Sun with the Hotem Ra, that altar from crystal aligned to the cardinal directions. And
Is that the
Saqqara.
one?
I'm not
Was
saying
that the
that's
one with the
actually.
bowls?
The one, yes, they are
That's
the
the one with the little
basins.
half bowls everywhere,
Yeah,
the basins.
exactly. The basins from the White Calcite. You still remember?
That's Abu Sir, the Temple of the Sun.
That's Abu Ghurab, near Abu Sir. So we usually do both of them as one, Abu Sir and Abu Ghurab. Abu Sir, by the way, is the name of this ancient area that is from Abu Rawash until Maydum, with all the pyramids of Giza Plateau and the ones inside the military camp of Zawat al Aryan and the other ones, Abu Ghurab and Abu Sir and Saqqara and Ashur. All this area in the ancient times was called Abu Sir, which means the place of Osiris. Bu Ozir. Some people call it Per Ozir as well. Per means house, but Bu means place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that shocked me the most from being there physically again, was being able to see from the Great Pyramid to see the pyramids on the horizon. And when you're there, you can see further pyramids, and then you can see back at the Great Pyramids, like they're all invisible line,
Yeah.
physically. And I didn't realize they were all so close together, or at least in that same sort of area.
Yeah, and there are other pyramids locations in different and far away places.
Yeah.
And some of them look like the basic and recognized stone masonry of the dynastic Egyptians. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find many of the pyramids were created during the dynastic Egyptian time. As I said, there is no underestimation for the capability of the dynastic Egyptians. They were able to carve and shape hard rocks from at least, according to the timelines, from 2700 BC. This is the third dynasty. And when we visit Saqqara and we find in the Imhotep Museum the room that has the stone jars and vessels. This is a very important topic we've been talking about for a long time. And they are divided to two sections. One is the ancient one made from very hard igneous rocks like granite and diorite gneiss, milky quartz, rock crystal, slate, breccia, and others. All these were created in the pre-dynastic time. That is supposed to be a very primitive era that they didn't create the pottery on a pottery wheel yet. They used to make a pit in the ground and put the piece of pottery in it and then shape it with a bone and then burn it on two sides. It's known from Nagada, the first civilization, one of the pre-dynastic civilizations, and the Nagada, the second as well. And in the burials of these pre-dynastic civilizations, they still were finding the stone vessels from granite and porphyry and basalt stone and almost all the different types of stones that we have in Egypt, and some of them are from abroad Egypt. So on the third dynasty, which is the production of stone vessels during the time of Imhotep. Imhotep is the name of the priest and the architect, supposedly the one that built the step pyramid in Saqqara. So the production of the stone vessels was limited to one type of stones. One type of stone, which is the calcite. It's beautiful and it's softer than the quartz and the other igneous rocks. And then the dynastic Egyptians showed the tools, which was a branch of wood with a piece of flint and weights. This is the drill that they created from the third dynasty. And the result in the beginning of the third dynasty, what they created was really primitive, that you cannot compare it to the older ones. The older ones we see in the museum and in the galleries underneath the step pyramid is perfectly symmetrical with the cut itself. Like if part of the material is tapered on this side, it's identically tapered on the other side, exactly the same, precise. And we've seen evidence on the last tour that some of them look like they were turned, actually, like a lathe work. There are striations on the outside. We've taken pictures of these pieces, and it is very important. While the other ones that were produced 2700 BC, they are not controlling the mass, and it's a softer stone. So it looks like it's a reproducing. The reproducing happened during the third dynasty. If we had the advanced era and we had a long intermediate period, as we can imagine from what we see, relevant facts we see, then we can say that the civilization was capable of reproducing the stone buildings and stone jars and statues and things like that once again from 2700 BC. But this, for the academics, this is the beginning. This is the beginning. The oldest stone structure on Earth is the step pyramid that was built 2700 BC. This is the academic information. While we have these other stone jars from various types of stones and gathered from different destinations. And they were supposedly created during the prehistory time, the pre-dynastic civilization is matching the Neolithic, so 10,000 BC, in the range of the time of 10,000 BC, are the burials they found it in it. But the burial itself could be for someone who inherited already something that is much older.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Especially with all the evidence you're seeing now on the vases with Ben, the stuff that Ben's been involved in. And I mean, it's sort of proving how accurate these things are. It's amazing. And they follow all these
methodology work. Yeah.
And the mathematical transversal patterns. I mean, it's unbelievable. Hey, have you ever heard there's a researcher that's gathering quite a group of quite a following, and he's pushing back against like Hancock and Randall Carlson and this timeline that you just mentioned, which is like 9600 BCE for Atlantis, all that kind of stuff, right? And he thinks that's supposed to be months and not years. And he thinks that all these other researchers are ignoring the evidence. But I thought I'd throw it out there to you because you love the mythology part of it as well. You're well versed in all this stuff. But just as an example here, he's talking about priests of Neith at Sais who related Atlantis story only employed a lunar calendar. And then Lactantius, Plutarch, Macrobius, Eusebius, and others knew all the ancient Egyptians reckoned a month as a year. And then even Diodorus Siculus wrote, it was customary to reckon the year by the lunar cycle. Since the year consisted of 30 days, it was not impossible for some men to live 1,200 years. And then, Manetho's 9,000 years was corrected by Africanus as 9,000 months. So, is that something that resonates with you, or could you see that the whole timeline, like, could potentially be shifted to be sooner than farther back?
We are not accurate of the timelines. This is something that me and all the academics will agree on, not just the alternative researchers. So until 1500 BC, until 1500 BC, or from 1500 BC until today, the timelines are accurate.
Oh,
but
okay.
But before that, things gets a little bit, and
which
I disagree that the ancient Egyptians mixed between a lunar month and a year, because a lunar month is a sign that is created with a star and a crescent on top of it, and it's called Apid. Okay, the year is created by a sign that looks like a reed, and it's called Rem. Not so there is no mix in there. I know the two words, so I didn't see. I will need to see an example of what he's saying, that they are saying a real ancient example in text, that they were saying a month that means a year, or a year that means a month, and things like that. And let's not forget the work of Dr. Robert Shaw. He's a geologist.
Yeah.
And
which would be the rain, right?
The decoration around the Sphinx enclosure is dated by a geologist, a modern one. And he sees that it was affected by the rain beating down long ago. This rain was beating down. It ended about 9,700 BC. 9,700 years, not months. And this is geology work. So it's not just something wrong that we are going to for mistranslation. There is another backup for the older timeline itself.
So how does that line up? How does Shock's work line up with the dynastic timeline? Does that line up pretty good?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't line up with the mainstream timelines.
What about with like our timeline though? Like because the mainstream timelines say one thing, but the Egyptians say another, right?
Yeah, but we have from the ancient Egyptians the history written by Manetho, which the British doubt.
By who?
They said the British themselves, the British academics.
No, written
by
the
timelines we are studying are the timelines confirmed by the British. And they are limiting everything.
Who did you mention before that? Before the British?
Manetho. That's the priest.
Yeah.
Manetho is the priest who wrote the history during the time of Ptolemy, and they gave him king's list and everything with timelines and events for 10,000 and for 30,000 for the beginning, the time in the beginning.
So Archaic says here that Africanus corrected that to 9,000 months. But I mean, what you're saying is, regardless of what all these sort of old researchers thought, you would want to see the original Egyptian, sort of like the original, where they're getting all this from, right? Because the way you see it, there's different symbols for years and months.
Well, not only that, the Egyptians, the actual Egyptian timeline that goes back to 10 and 30,000 years seems to line up with the geology.
Yeah. And the astronomy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly. Those are two huge things that Archaics is kind of missing, because he's doing the Hancock thing. I love Archaics' stuff, but it's kind of hard to just, there's something to the text, but like Yousef's saying, well, when you go into that thing or you see the Robert Schoch stuff, I mean, look at those rocks we've seen in Karnak. I still think, like, my main takeaway, it was all awesome, but those three blocks that we seen in Karnak that nobody really gives a shit about, but we went to them, and I looked at them, and to me, it melted my brain, because I was there with a practicing geologist, a high level one, and I'm like, dude, this is 50,000 years. And he's like, yeah, man, I don't know how this happens any quicker than 25.
Exactly. He said, I remember them, the blocks of granite lying behind the Holy of Holies in Karnak. Since we stopped with him, we actually talk about what he taught us. You see, this is what I said earlier about how we learn from each other. And what's our friend's name?
Chuck Kizina.
Chuck. Yes, Chuck, I remember. And he looked at the curves and the erosion, and also how the silica is almost dissolved from this granite, and it's crumbling and falling apart, while other pieces of granite used in the same location, they are still in a very good condition. And the curves on the corners and everything, he said, this cannot happen in less than 10,000 years.
And it was all under the same water.
It's the same location. They're still on the same alignment with the same line that the modern Holy of Holies that was built from recycling stones from the New Kingdom to build it during the Greco-Roman time, which is the one that's still standing until today. We have a lot of evidence that shows that inheritors kept building and keeping the tradition, even that if they lost the true knowledge, they were just keeping it for ceremonial practices and also political religious promotions. The political religious promotions, as my father taught me, and one of the things I'll say, you were right, I was not convinced when I first heard this from him, God bless his soul. But I am convinced now, after all the studies I've been through and I've seen things I've seen with my own eyes, that the religious political promotions were happening from the beginning of writings. From the beginning, things start to take symbols. The inscriptions and the writings was created to complete the official system. So this is one of the things also, when the academics are saying the historical times, and they attach this to the times of written language, that I think is wrong.
Well, that's very interesting, because this same guy, Archaics, who does the research, he's compiled like all the timelines from like 1,200 ancient books, right? And he says that he doesn't go any further back than the first written records. So he only would go from when the writing started, which was supposedly like 5,000 BC or whatever, around there.
That's true.
And he says four of these records show that at the same time there was a cataclysm, which he thinks was the deluge and maybe the destruction of Atlantis, and they all point to 2259 BC. So he shows all these same records pointing to like what he calls the collapse of the vapor barrier, the vapor canopy. So it's pretty interesting, because he's supposedly taking it from all these ancient texts.
Yeah. Well, there is the era of the pre-symbolism. We cannot deny it, because the stone vessels, they were created in this, or at that time.
Yeah.
Looks like the Great Pyramids were as well. There is no
Right.
inscriptions inside,
Yeah.
and even the signs that they see from the stone masons, there's still debate about is it real or is it not real. So it's not. They're not giving us a final answer about this. Like when the German guy took the sample for analysis, they made a big deal out of it, and they said, "Yeah, these ones in
So there's
Karnak
that
temple for
fucking
those."
Karnak.
Yeah, yeah, these are falling
Whoops.
apart.
Isn't that something? How that was one of the biggest takeaways I had was at that Karnak temple in Egypt. That this is a granite block. It blows my
Yeah,
mind.
many
And then I
people
also
pass by it and think it's mud breaks because it looks so deteriorated.
and the interesting thing is that you can't see it in my picture here, but there's the same tool, like the groove marks in top to interlock them, so you know that it's a worked piece. And then I
Definitely.
threw this one in there as well because this was another thing that I thought was
Yeah,
pretty interesting in Karnak is when you look under this excavation, they've clearly built this on top of some other stuff.
no doubt. And the academics are aware of this, but they divided the timelines according to the inscriptions. So when archaeologists are putting timelines aside, they are mainly depending on inscriptions. If there are inscriptions from the Middle Kingdom, this is Middle Kingdom. If this is the New Kingdom, then it was New Kingdom. Sometimes you find names of three different kings on one statue or on one column. And we all know that this was the successor adding his name, like, claiming or politically being promoted by adding his name or even claiming that he restored the site or renovated the site. It's a famous formula. You can find it in the Middle Kingdom, in the New Kingdom. Inscriptions are not the conclusive evidence to date and relate everything. It is a good evidence, but it's not conclusive 100%. And we get the inscriptions and the books in the Seraphim, for example.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite part. Is all these these massive granite boxes that seem very accurately made, and they're massive, and there's different types of them. Which Jeffrey Drum was mentioning earlier that they have different the different type of what does he say here? Yeah, he said about the granite. The different granites have different. Now I can't find the comment, but. Yeah, different. I don't know if he said resonances or electromagnetic frequencies coming off them or something. But that's Ben. I thought that was Yousef, but it's Ben there. But yeah, that's to me like one of the most incredible phenomena.
Yeah.
Just sitting there. No one has there's no mainstream explanations of all this, how this was accurately made. Like,
Copper chisels.
Copper chisels. So do you have you noticed a shift with in the last 10, 20 years, obviously there's been a paradigm shift, but this type of timeline that you're talking about also being all over the world, right? Baalbek and other it seems like in other parts of the world there's a similar thing happening.
Yeah.
Do you follow that at all?
Our awareness is raising. And the social media is helping that. But as we said, it's going in different directions. So with that, there is a lot of misinformation spreading as well.
Yeah.
And it will all give you the same headlines, like ancient civilization and the pyramid machine or things like that. And then the studies are not really done with integrity. Yeah, some people will just say anything to make a YouTube video and make it 1 million views. So they will, and they will exaggerate or even say things without investigating the information. And the best, like that, I see that our brother Ben from the Uncharted X, he always investigates every information before he publish it in a YouTube video. And then, because he is really honest to the research like that, I think this was like divine guidance to connect him with the group of Christopher Dunn, our teacher as well, and his son, and of course our friend who gathered the stone vessels, so we can have the. I'm really actually grateful that I lived and witnessed the measuring of these, because this here is a scientific study that can lead, and it resonated with some of the academics here in Egypt, that they are about to do further studies of meteorology on the stone vessels. And I'm so grateful I just witnessed this happening, because this is the beginning. And the wheel doesn't roll backwards after that. When you have,
Well, you're
yeah,
grateful. We're
when
grateful
you
to
have the
you.
result scientifically and academically figured, then we are on the right path, because
Yeah,
these
but you
artifacts,
played a
these
big
stone
role in that.
vessels.
You got to remember that you play a big role in that too. You know, you continuing your father's work and doing these expeditions. Like I was talking to Graham the other day, like it's weird to be rubbing shoulders with guys like Ben and the Brothers of the Serpent that really seem to be picking up the torch for the next generation of this kind of stuff and carrying that ball forward past and doing it, I would argue, at a higher level than Graham Hancock and these guys ever really tried to. I mean, so
Yeah,
I think that you and Ben, the Brothers of the Serpent, Chris Dunn, that's kind of that circle of the new Egypt. That's like, you know, I'm pretty proud to know you guys and to be along. We were lucky enough. We seen the eclipse with Ben just last week. It was great.
yeah.
But actually, I'm going to come back, I think, next year with those guys and hang out again. But I
That would
really
be
want to
great.
say that, well, you're talking about that. Well, we're pretty grateful to have you guys doing that, because I think that you five people are kind of pushing this thing forward begrudgingly, where a lot of people are kind of stopped at fucking aliens.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm honored, of course, just to be mentioned with those who are trying to lead revolutionary studies and awakening as well. And this will reflect on many different levels in our lives. Awareness is very important, not just to know the pyramids, but to live our life with this awareness and knowing that we were once capable of creating these structures that is based on really the knowledge, divine knowledge, or the knowledge of nature, which we are in our evolution in this civilization, are not really in tune with nature and causing all kinds of nasty things to the environment and to ourselves as well. So hopefully this will lead to awareness of all of us to live healthier, inshallah.
When I come back, I want to do that Jeep drive. Christian and those guys sent me pictures of them driving the Jeep, those trucks through the desert with the music blast.
Yeah.
That looked dope. That looked like some
Okay.
super fun stuff. And we got to get you over here, because the one main thing I seen in Egypt is like, and it's super cool, but I come from a totally different landscape where in Egypt, it seems like everywhere you go, you're gonna find, if you dig a hole, you're gonna find something that's 1,000 years old, and if you dig it deeper, you're gonna find something that's 10,000 years old. So I wonder, is
Yeah.
there places in Egypt? Because where I go out hunting here, I might come around a corner on a river and be like, shit, nobody's been here in a million fucking years. You know, like there's still spots like that. And I had my buddy from Europe out here last year, and he's just like, you know, I'm taking him hunting, and we're walking down a riverbank, and it's completely mundane for me, and he's just gonna stop, and he's like, there's nothing like this in England. Everything's completely cultivated. We can't just come over a bank and find a river that's completely in its natural state that it's been in, you know, since the ice caps melted, probably. Do you got that sort of stuff in Egypt, or is it is it
Of
always
course,
funny?
the Nile Valley was occupied with people from the Paleolithic era.
Yeah,
We
that
have
might be the Garden of Eden. I mean, it
we
really
have
might be.
findings that goes back like Academics, they call a civilization when they produced something. So human skeletons were found around the Nile Valley for at least 500,000 years. And production of people that lived and produced things like from flint and things like that goes back to, according to academic sources, to 350,000 years. In fact, there are stone tools displayed in the Museum of Civilization here in Egypt that is dated to 2,300,000 years. So yeah, the land here had activities and like human activities in the Nile Valley for hundreds of thousands of years.
So how do people find, like, if people wanted to go on tours and stuff, do you guys advertise tours? Can people sign up for you guys, or should they go through somebody like Ben from Uncharted X?
Uncharted X or Chemitology.com.
Yeah. When's the next one?
We have one, we call it the Primordial Tour. It's going to be in December. And we have the Uncharted X Tour. It's going to be in February.
That's the one I might come to. I'm considering coming to the one in February. Yeah, Ben and I were talking about it. I need a couple years between the flights. I mean, it's such a long flight. It takes me 2 weeks to get back on the sleep schedule. It's really something.
We improved the itinerary now. So we made it more relaxing.
It'll help.
It's longer, 16 days, but it's more relaxing and it has more privates in it. Actually, the last couple of tours were really beautiful. The way we created this last itinerary, we put a lot of things not to forget that people are spending a vacation.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It'll help this time too, because I won't have to do all the special permission, like not the special permission, but the add-on stuff. Like last time, I felt like I had to do all that, so I got to get up at 3 a.m. to go on the balloon ride, and then 2 days later, I'm up at 3 a.m. to go out to that. What's the place called that they actually moved?
Abu Simbel.
Yeah.
Abu Simbel. No, we put these as optional. Some people want to do more. Some people want to do less. Some people want to relax. So we have this we decide to make it in Aswan. People can go to Abu Simbel or the Nubian Museum or stay on the boat and then have just afternoon. The itinerary will only have an afternoon visit to Elephantine Island. That's where the box that you were just showing is. This is the one included in the main itinerary. But the optional ones, some people are willing to do even more. So we give them that as well.
That Elephantine Island thing, I mean, the whole experience of it on the boat with the music and all that, it really is something else. It's really magical. Well, Yousef, this has been great. I mean, can you give everyone your socials and your website one more time for the people that are too lazy to check the show notes? And of course, we'll be promoting the Uncharted X tours as we do, and I'll be back for sure. I don't know if I'll be able to convince Graham, but I'll be back.
Anybody can find me on the Uncharted X with Ben and you guys. I would really love to see you again, inshallah, on the next Uncharted X tour in February. And Chemitology.com. This is the website that I usually can find me on Facebook. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I cannot keep up with 1 million things. Twitter and this and this and that. Yeah.
Right on. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Great to see you again.
Great to see you again and talk with you, my friends.
Yeah, thanks, Yousef. This has been great. We'll have to do this again. And like I say, I will if I don't come next year, the year after for sure. But in the next 2 years, I'm coming. I'm gonna come back and hang out.
Inshallah. Looking forward to that.
All right. Thanks again, Yousef. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that was a chat with Yousef Awyan. What'd you think?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It does make me want to go back and do the whole. I mean, that picture behind you, that was super dope.
Oh yeah, that's from the Nile. That's I think that's the temple. I think we're on the Nile and we're looking across there at the temple.
Yeah, that's like when we got into Aswan, right?
Luxor, probably. It's
Oh,
probably.
Luxor. They're both great. I mean, the Nile, the whole Nile boat thing was my favorite part. The cruising down the Nile. I just wish it was like back in the day cruising down the Nile, because like I grew up watching National Geographic Explorer all the time, and they always had the Nile stuff, and it was always like crocodiles and giant Nile perch. And then they built that dam, and I guess that's not really, I went there and I was talking to some of the local guys, and they're like, well, since they built the dam, that kind of stuff don't really happen down there.
Yeah.
There's no crocodiles anymore. And I went to the place where there's supposed to be crocodiles. I didn't see any. There was a lot of signage that said, don't go down to the water, because there was actually a fence that stopped you from getting down there. But yeah, I think I'll go back. I mean, it's crazy that I even have the opportunity to go do stuff like that. And, I've been kind of going back with that a bit. And it's like, well, I didn't want to go. It's too much flying. And it's like, well, so many people don't even have this opportunity. You should probably take it if you've got it, at least,
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask him a bit about the people and the tourism and how poor, like being there after 30 years, I guess 33 years or whatever, coming back and then seeing the garbage still on the canals and it just feels like there's not much being done for the people, And I mean, we're looking at the population of Toronto, like 2.6 million, and then Cairo 22 million. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But I don't know, just I feel like they're kind of stuck in this poverty, in general over there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, well, I don't know that they have a lot of money in general.
No, but I mean, they're one of the biggest tourists.
Good at distributing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I get it. Biggest tourist in the thing, but dude, 30 million people just in Cairo.
Yeah.
That's like almost the population of Canada just in Cairo.
Yeah.
And there's like a bunch of cities all up and down there. Like, it's got to be quite a load.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems crazy to me on some level that they even managed to get all those people enough water.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fucking feat in itself.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, all of Canada and hot and dry.
Yeah.
So anyway, big thanks to Yousef for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. We got a couple of people in the chats that were on that trip, of course. Shout out to Greg. He says he's coming to South America with us one day, but maybe we'll see. Like I say, I think I'll go back to Egypt next year and be nice. So Sean around is just a little less pressure as well with the kids and everything. So I might be able to go and enjoy myself a little more without being stressed out about it the entire time. So, like I say, big thanks to Yousef for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks. If you guys like the show, you got to support it, because we don't do ads and we don't have stuff. So we could use some support. We'll mention you if you support. We'll read your note if you do a support. America.ca/support. You can make a monthly donation. You can sign up for a monthly, anywhere from $1 a month to $1,000 a month. You can do a one-time donation, anywhere from $5 to $1,000. More than that, maybe, if you want. I don't know. No one's ever tried. No one's ever tried 1,000. So maybe you could try and set the record. Anyway, we love you guys. We would like you to support the show if you like it. If you made it to this part of the show, the very end, you must have liked it. What's that worth to you? $1? $2? 50 cents? A mean tweet? Anyway, let me see. Adultbrain.ca for all the audiobooks. 120 some audiobooks available over at adultbrain.ca. You can get there. That'll get you links to where you can buy them, where you can listen to them for free, where you can get to the podcast, all the different avenues. GramericaOutlawed.ca for our news stuff, where we actually started doing like more news and current event style content. We do some interviews over there too, of course, some more controversial ones, but we do a lot more just Graham and I hashing out news and current events, maybe stuff you never heard of, a lot more Canadian stuff. I think that's about it, guys. Have a good week.
Scablands. Yeah.
That's right. Come on the Scablands trip.
May 13th. Yeah. With Randall Carlson, right? That's I've contacted the cabin.com. I don't know if you mentioned it or not. I was trying to.
Yeah. We can hang out. You can come hang out with Randall Carlson. Jam with him.
A few tickets left only.
Smoke with them, all that stuff. Contact the cabin.com. Check it out. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Teach me all your secrets to get a good handle on a better way to live. How does one get out of bed every day in the throes of the apocalypse? Should I bury my head in the sand or sabotage their evil plan? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. It's all a little bit too convenient, all the evidence went up in flames. Phonies, fraudsters, scammers belong in the slammer, my friend, best give up their names. Should I call on militiaman or pass out a petition pen? I feel really trapped, an ant burned by a magnifying glass. I don't know what y'all been told, but I got a soul made out of gold. Sound off, 1, 2, sound off, 3, 4, cadence count, 1, 2, a big ball. Some time ago a crazy dream came to me. I dreamt I was walking into World War III. As prophetic as humidity, as aching bones, as frantic animals. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. As prophetic as deja vu, as wormwood, as falling stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now she floats it down a river dark. I can't even hear my own thoughts for the life of me over the din of a bruised and broken culture. The media spins and splatters and spins and clatters, and I cringe because it's psychological warfare. Don't you feel yourself getting really mad? How did we let it get this bad? Don't you feel really trapped, like a brain in a vat? Trying really hard to close Pandora's box, but sirens are singing me off a cliff. I'm looking to hitchhike to Shangri-La over yonder. Sophia, would you give me a lift? Hopped out of the Hegelian rebellion. Say goodbye to all you Machiavellians. Let evil destroy itself. I'm bound for Shangri-La. Shangri-La. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. I'll let you be in my dream if I could be in yours. As prophetic as morning doves, as groundhogs, as fallen stars above. Sophia wrote it down, built an ark, now we're floating it down a river dark. As prophetic as white wolves, as butterflies, as rainbows. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. Sophia sings it now. We built a plane, now we're taking flight above a river bright. La da da da, la da da, la da, la da da, la da 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 da, la 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 Shangri-La, la 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 Shangri-La.